Tribalism in American culture. In my opinion, the dark matter or dark energy, the hidden underlying force of American culture right now, sort of since the 60s, has been tribalism and disruption of the sort of inner workings of tribalism on human psychology. Because pre 60s, you had, in a large part, multiple layers of tribalism: racial, social status, not as much in America, but definitely in the rest of the world. Um, Cultural, like ethnic cultural, uh, sort of to some degree state by state. Definitely had like west side, east side, kind of like city stuff. But there was a lot of tribalism, and it was kind of more socially acceptable. And then after the 60s, you had the human rights, you had all the marches, and it wasn't socially acceptable in large part to behave tribally in it wasn't culturally acceptable to behave tribally in day-to-day life, interpersonal interaction, that kind of stuff. And really the only part of daily life or was political that you could be tribal in was political. So the divide between left and right has just been accelerated and compounded, and the in-group out-group preference, the level that those are at, has just skyrocketed it since then. And that is the underlying factor that we're not accounting for in any way under probably many of the growing problems in American society. If you're looking for sort of evidence that this is going on, besides the obvious things, look at language, especially. Language has changed dramatically in the way it's used to be more sensitive. George Carlin has a lot of skits about this, and it's pretty good to watch what he talks about. But basically, the effect is that you, through language, you don't reveal tribal affiliations at all. It's sort of masking them, pretending that they're not there in a way. And this is not a natural state for human psychology. And I guess tribalism isn't necessarily like the best thing in all circumstances. It causes a lot of warfare, strife, but it also causes cohesion. It allows us to organize into groups, stay ordered, build a hierarchy to give orders and keep a direction. You know, to some degree, it probably built the pyramids and built modern civilization, keeps corporations running smoothly. So it's not like tribalism is a good thing or a bad thing, but it's something that we're not thinking about consciously and paying attention to and monitoring. And that is putting a lot of pressure on just the group psyche, and is probably part of the reason why we started churning out SJWs beyond all of the sort of political correct brainwashing that's going on. And political correctness is probably an outgrowth of this same tribal phenomenon. As for sort of solutions to this, nothing dramatic springs to mind. Nationalism would be probably a good starting point. Consciously, it is possible that we could consciously manage tribalism, and that may be the best long-term answer for the human species. Sort of consciously making sort of a moral social norm or moral rule for social thought and behavior, where you police your own thoughts and emotional states against tribalism, like, and awareness of it. So, you might have a lot of tribalism for team sports, but then after the game, you would have some kind of group party, but that probably wouldn't actually work. But hopefully you can see that kind of line of thinking where you want to have some kind of rules about tribal thought patterns, but we'd have to develop sort of a better understanding of it than we currently have, and a way of like recognizing it socially and coping with it. And I'm not certain exactly what the best direction to go with that. Possibly it's that we actually indulge the tribal instinct to some degree and sort of group up at the local level into groups of 300 or 400 that sort of have a cohesion, sort of a good example of this type of thing in the modern world would be like an atheist church where people basically get together to form a small community, but it's not a religious community. It's not focused on kind of a religious tribal affiliation, but just a shared interest kind of thing. If you had a bunch of those pop up and sort of local groups, it was more mandated. It's not just atheist church, but like everybody goes to the local community center once or twice a month, and it's sort of socially enforced. So if somebody doesn't go, their friends will be like, hey, I didn't see you there, you should go next time. That kind of stuff. You could sort of build a local tribal affiliation, and that would ease the psychology of people and reduce the anxiety developed by having a lack of a tribe, which is a very true thing. And it actually makes you feel good if you are a part of a tribe. Soldiers especially will mention this, that when they're in a squad, about 40 people, it feels right. It feels like this is the way things should be. And it really allows the soldiers to focus on other things. They lose a lot of just general anxiety when they're in that group. So maybe indulging it a bit could actually be a better solution to allow overall cohesion of the human species, for example. Those are kind of my thoughts.